introduce myself and thank Eero, Sam, and Risto for inviting me to be with them today. I first went to Finland in 2007 as a Fulbright professor at University of Tampere. And I got introduced to the Finnish sauna culture there because the building I lived in had a sauna in the basement. And the people that took care of me set up an appointment. So I had a regular sauna session. And then I made friends with an American woman who was married to a Finnish man. And they kind of oriented me to the whole Finnish sauna culture. And I fell in love with it. And I was a little nervous about going down into the basement sauna, though. I made fun of it because it looked like a dungeon to me, but I really enjoyed the sauna experience and the whole ritual of it. And it's been influential in my writing ever since. So in the past 2 years, I published a book of poems called The Sauna is Full of Maids, which is based on the experiences in Finland, not only when I was a professor, but I kept coming back and I ended up doing research on the Sámi, on film and photography and arts by Sámi artists who are an indigenous minority in the Nordic countries. And their art was amazing, their films were amazing, and their resistance to mining and extraction in the Sámi areas in the north were related in a lot of ways to my research in the United States on environmental justice. So, but I didn't only want to do scholarly writing, so I wrote poems and a novel. So today I'm going to be reading a couple of poems, and then I'm going to read a short excerpt from my debut novel, Off the Yoga Mat. So Risto asked me to read this poem, Foraging. So this poem is actually not about sauna, but it is about foraging, which is another great tradition in Finland and the other Nordic countries, and even in parts of the United States. So with Auntie in the woods, I learned to spot herkutati, aka Boletus edulis, aka porcini mushrooms, large brown caps, tubes extending from underside. In Italian folklore, they sprout at the new moon. Saute them for a slightly nutty, meaty, fruity flavor. The small ones, maggot-free. Once I understand where and when they may appear, even late in the season, I am hooked. It takes patience, a good eye. With Lena and Kaisa, I'm eager to pick yellow cloudberries in bogs. We put on high boots, carry buckets to find them. Glamorous, rare, in a mosquito haze in the Swedish Sámi area, not far from Kiruna. Rubus, Cameoris, grown in wild alpine, Arctic tundra, boreal forest. Every man's land means Norwegians can drive over, grab a prime spot, and they do. Finns make laka, liquor, from these yellow berries. The soft, juicy, fleshy berry garners high prices in markets. Kaisa's mother, Anna, prepares jam and pancakes from the contents of their nearly full buckets. They serve me from this bounty, even though I did not pull my weight. So in the book, I have a picture of my paltry amount of cloudberries that I hardly got any because I couldn't take the heat and the mosquitoes, and I ran away and they picked full buckets and I got to eat it anyway. And then the mushrooms, I only focused on the herkutati because when you're a beginner to picking mushrooms, they say focus only on one. And I took pictures and my friend Auntie would tell me if it was edible or not, and it was so delicious. The other poem I want to read is a sauna poem, and it's also from this poetry collection. The sauna is full of maids, and that line comes from the Kalevala, which is the Finnish national epic poem. So this book of poems was somewhat influenced by the Kalevala because I read it only in English translation, obviously not in Finnish, but the rhythms of the language were really inspiring to me, as well as the myth. So two maids in the Tulo Tower sauna. So Tulo Towers is, Tulo is a section of Helsinki where I have been staying. Annika arrives in the small sauna in Tulo Towers. Heat rises like tolerance. Our friendship expands and quiets over 11 years since I first visited Suomi. We eat and drink and shop and walk. Two maids sharing a view of Helsinki from the 11th floor deck, taking non-traditional paths, content with in-betweens. How pleasant for me to flit here. We pour water on the rocks over nakedness, leave imperfection and judgment, sweat and cold, wood and skin, the time of dry smoke, music collective and separate. Annika collects lamps of artificial light that shine in the darkness of her living room, omnipresent candles in the night. She visits her aging father in the cottage near the archipelago where Russians purchase islands. I lost my father this year. He slipped out of the room. The Gulf of Finland edges against moonlight, tumescent water resembling a lake. The happy and the lucky by the headlands, longing for eternal things. So those are a couple of my poems. And now I'm going to read a short section from my debut novel, Off the Yoga Mat, which is the story of three characters about to turn 40, or as I call it, coming of middle age novel. And it's set in the year 1999 when we were all terrified about the Y2K bug. And one of the three characters, Nora, wants to have a baby. She's turning 40. And her boyfriend, Nate, one of the other characters, is a graduate student forever and doesn't feel ready to have a child. And her biological clock is ticking, as well as the 1999 into 2000 clock is ticking. So she ends up going to Finland to work for Nokia for about 4 months. And she, like me, really gets involved and interested in the sauna culture and the lakes and the hot and the cold and the way it sort of heals you in a way and purges out things that are bothering you, and is a very intimate experience and sometimes uncomfortable, but then relief. So this is near the end of the novel when Nora is knowing she's leaving Finland and going back to New York. So I'm going to read from chapter 39. It's called Verdant. Nora would immerse her body into the large and glistening beauty of Näsijärvi, where the temperature was in the range of 55 degrees Fahrenheit. After packing her suitcase, she took a solo journey to bid farewell, riding the bus to the lake and hiking down a dirt path shaded by leafy white birch and placid firs. At the water's edge, she began to count out loud in Finnish. Iksi, kaksi, kolme. Nobody told me, she chanted, dipping her feet in the cold, clean water up to her ankles. Water's rhythm, never shy. Neljä, viisi, feeling dizzy, she continued. At this point, some of the children in the shallow water stared. She inched forward slowly until she reached up to her knees. Freezing indeed, numbness you must withstand. Kuusi, seksaman, kadaksan, no one here to hold my hand. She waded up to her tummy, shaking, wanting to cling to one of the children, anything to distract her and make it easier to acclimate. Bethany's son, Auntie, would have squealed, darted away. At her party, he had finally come out of hiding, consented to let her hug him. He liked the comic books, even shared them with his sister. She imagined how she'd take her own little one into the water, offer piggyback rides. She and her brother Ben frolicked in the community pool while growing up, jumping into their parents' arms when the adults ceased playing bridge. Her dad taught her how to swim. He'd hold her on the surface of the water's sheen, and she'd kick while rotating her arms. He showed her how to turn her head and take a breath, never letting go until she insisted. It took practice and frustration to coordinate these movements. She thought about her dad's chemo, imagined being with him, remembering this lake, telling him of its size and stark beauty. A shiver descended like the trill of a flute. The sauna nearby could ease discomfort. That was its job. She strolled over to the heated room, joining a small group of men and women. This time it was her who poured water on the rock so it sizzled with rolling steam. Lolu. That's when she noticed the small bundles of tied up birch sticks and leaves that bathers used to smack themselves and others for stimulation. The leaves released a scent that was fresh and verdant, infusing the air. She found a bundle tied with string and mimicked the motions of the others, thwacking the plants lightly against her skin until they almost adhered. A brisk awakening, releasing a sublime scent, one organism speaking to another. She followed a couple out the door, submerged again into the clear, gentle waves, warm meeting cold, opposites conjoining. In the all-knowing water, she bobbed between elemental forces, ready to go back, be with friends and family. Time to prioritize motherhood. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. But Nora does want to have a baby, and I won't tell you whether or not she does and how she goes about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Very, very beautiful. That reminds me about that yksi, kaksi, kolme, and you go forward. It's just like there was back in the day was talk when I was living in Finland about positive thinking, and it's actually when you go to that hole in the water, hole in the ice, you know, it's just you should concentrate on your feet, like left foot, right foot, left foot when you go forward. Anyway, so I guess we should introduce ourselves. This is our second podcast, The Upper Bench. So I'm Eero, and I've been the president of the North American Sauna Society for quite a while, and I still am. And then we have here, gentlemen, Sam.
Hi, Sam Wacha, sauna enthusiast. I'm a member of numerous online sauna communities, and I'm also a member of NAS. Love sauna, and I love meeting anyone that also shares that same passion.
And I'm Christopher, or the Finnish nickname would be Risto. Even though I'm not Finnish, I love that nickname. And myself and my family, we accidentally stumbled into sauna, so we're sauna hounds, we like to say.
And Cheryl, you and we've known each other for what, 5 years? How did we actually end up getting to know each other?
Well, I was invited by was it the Finnish American Society or the Finland in New York organization? One of the organizations to read my sauna poems at the Finland 100 block party, which took place in Greenwich Village in 2017 for Finland's 100th year of independence. And I think we connected there, and also I connected with Markus Kaitala, the musician, a Finnish musician, and he and I and a couple of his friends ended up doing an event together where they composed one of my poems to music, and it was sang. So it was extremely gratifying. They heard me read at that Finnish American block party, and then we stayed in touch. And Eero had me do a blog post for the North American Sauna Society's blog when the Sauna is Full of Maids book came out, and that was really gratifying to be able to say how a creative person can be influenced by sauna. So it is inspiring my art and my creativity, and I was happy to have the opportunity to share my process of writing the poems and of being a part of the society. And then I went to the meeting a couple of weeks ago and learned about how Sauna Aid is helping people in Ukraine have relaxation in these saunas that they just put up in tents. And that was an amazing thing to learn about. And I'd like to be supportive of those efforts as well.
Didn't we even go sauna bathing together, I remember?
Did you go to the portable sauna in Brooklyn when they had that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so then we did.
We shared the same ferry going over.
Yeah, so that was an amazing experience. You guys would have loved it. It was in this parking lot in like hipster Red Hook, Brooklyn, and there was this portable sauna with since they didn't have any lakes or natural water nearby, they put like a kiddie pool full of water.
That's better than swimming in any of the rivers out there.
Well, they say it's getting better.
Good, good.
Where
No,
are
and
you located? Yeah.
and Cheryl, you said that you do have some background in environmental, and it really
yeah.
rings through just in what you read. I could hear the connection to nature and wanting to incorporate that, in kind of your writing. So could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my academic scholarship is on environmental justice, and it started after 9/11 because I live very close to the Twin Towers, and I was evacuated and I was affected by the environmental you know pollution and toxic
Sure.
exposure, and because my earlier academic research had been on travel writing, but it's all connected actually. Everything I do is connected. So I started to do research on toxic exposure as represented in novels and films, and I called it toxic discourse. And and I started to look at how writers, artists, and filmmakers were telling stories that would try to get us to understand how pollution crosses borders, how it goes from our body, how the environment goes into our bodies, how it affects our psyche. So, and then when I went over to Finland and saw these films by the Sámi, it just clicked for me, and I just realized that I wanted to. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of research at all on the film by Sámi filmmakers. Now there's a ton of people doing it, and Sámi are doing a lot of their own research on their own people, and their own voices, which is so important. But so I immediately started to connect, the work I was doing in North America, which was mostly on ethnic American literature and film by all different people. And then I started to connect to it in Finland. And I'm still doing it. I recently published a blog post on the Sámi protest in the north, where they wanted to build a railroad that would invade the reindeer, the habitat. And then I connected that to these exhibits I saw on Standing Rock, in North Dakota, the pipeline that they wanted to build there. And the protests at Standing Rock were so key, like people from so many countries, and it was the largest environmental justice protests in the world, and it just brought so many people together. So I went and saw an exhibit on the art of Standing Rock, and so I wrote a little bit about that. I wasn't allowed to take pictures, unfortunately. So I'm into writing about activist arts. It's sometimes called artivism, so it combines activism and art. So it's natural. My writing, my creative writing, my poems and fiction are much more fun and entertaining, because I believe, I want to tell a good story. I want it to be uplifting. I want people to enjoy the adventures of the characters. So even though it is still political and it is still very much in touch with environmental change, environmental justice. So in the poetry book, I have poems about nuclear power plants coming into Finland. In the novel, I have things about the Freegans who do dumpster diving to say that we waste too much food in New York and the United States. So I always do have political issues in the creative writing, but I would say it's not the center. Whereas in my scholarly writing, it's definitely the center.
And
wonderful.
So you visited up north in Finland quite a bit. Was that on your second time coming back to Finland, or even
Actually,
on the first time?
On the first time I went to Rovaniemi,
Okay.
which is Eero knows. It's just at the Arctic Circle level. And
Yes.
a friend of a friend lived there. So he invited us and we did skiing. And my son was 7 at the time. And we did sledding with dogs, dog sledding, even though that's not traditionally Finnish, that's more American. That's Alaskan, but the Finns have adapted it. And and that was amazing. And so yes, I did go to the north my first time, but then the last few times I've actually gone to Inari. I've gone to the Sámi areas, and
Okay.
Sida is the Sámi museum in Inari, and also the Sámi Parliament building is up there. And I purposely went to see an exhibit opening of a Sámi artist that I've written about, Marja Helander. She's a Finnish Sámi artist. So I purposely went to see her new art exhibit. And so yes, and then I also had an artist residency in which is right near Oulu. It's about an hour north of Oulu. And that's where I wrote most of the poems in the sauna book. And I also worked on the novel Off the Yoga Mat during that residency, and I loved that area. I loved the people, I loved it, and in fact, I just applied to go back. So it's possible I may be going back. I hope it works out, to Finland in May and June, or part of May and June, at some artist residencies if they work out.
And I'm curious, I don't know a ton about the Sámi, just a little bit, but did you get a chance to sauna there? Is their sauna practice any different than what you experienced in the
Good
rest of
point.
Finland?
It's very central to the Sámi.
Okay.
It's extremely central to them. So, there are definitely overlaps between Sámi culture and Finnish and all the Scandinavian culture. There are definitely things in common. But I actually didn't really go to a specifically Sámi sauna, but I did go to the lavu. So the Sámi lavu is the Sámi tent that resembles a teepee from Native American culture. I did go to a number of those, and including one that was a cafe. And they have a fire pit inside the lavu, and usually they have furs, reindeer pelts and furs. And I went to the Sámi indigenous festival, Risto, which is in the north of Norway, but unfortunately it was the year that Breivik, the terrorist attack in Norway, committed unfortunately it happened while I was at the Risto Sámi festival. And so that put the whole thing to a close, and it brought up my 9/11 trauma. I had a PTSD. I was crying with all the people there, and it was a similar feeling because we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know if it was over. We didn't understand what was going on. So in your body, you just feel like such fear when you hear about another terrorist attack, if you've experienced that before. So I can imagine what the people of Ukraine must be going through on a daily basis, and in Syria and all the countries where they have to live with trauma every single day of their lives.
That's so true. So how is it because of these travels that because obviously, we're going to start talking more and more about sauna. So is it because of the travels that you got into the sauna bathing, or did you were separately interested in sauna? So how, I'm trying to find out what kind of role does sauna play in your life?
Okay, well, while I'm here, it's very minimal because I don't have access to a sauna in New York right now. When I was in a gym here, it closed though. It had a sauna, and it wasn't terrible. I'll say that. I was able to make it hot enough. It generally wasn't hot enough, but I was able to deal with it and make it hotter, and they didn't stop me.
How did you make it hotter?
I just went out and I raised the temperature.
Okay, you were able to.
I was able to when no one else was looking.
Okay.
I was able to make it hotter, but when other people were there, I couldn't do it, and I had to just put up with it. But then that closed, and I'm not. And then there is a steam room at another gym that I go to, but to me that's not the same. I don't like it really.
And so
yeah.
It was Finland. Was that your first? Like before that, was it just like gym, hotel, like the normal American
I'd say
exposure?
Before that, it was gym, hotel. I did go to a sweat lodge. I have gone to several Native American sweat lodges, and I'd say I see a very strong connection between sauna and sweat lodge, in terms of it being spiritual, in terms of it having the hot and the cold. So I definitely see a strong connection there. So I had gone to a couple of those. One was at like a retreat I went to, and then I went to the Llama Foundation in New Mexico. I went to an amazing week workshop up there, and they had a sweat lodge. So I have done those, but then when I went to Finland, it was like an entirely different experience, and I really learned the right way to do it. And I just haven't found the same thing here, unfortunately, except that time with Eero when we went to that portable sauna. That was a Finnish sauna, and that was in 2017. And you know, I know there are these Asian spas, you know, I've heard they're pretty good in different parts of New York. And when we were on that Zoom the other time, someone mentioned one in Brooklyn, Eero. I didn't have a chance to look into that. Someone mentioned some new sauna thing in Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's I believe it's called the World Spa. I
I
guess,
want to look into that and see what that is. But
Yeah.
so the last time I had a sauna was in Iceland. I was in Iceland in June at a different artist retreat, and the house, I wasn't living in the house, but the house where a group of the artists live had a sauna, but they didn't know how to do it right. And I didn't want to get into a fight with them. But they totally weren't doing it right. But there was a large group of them, and I mentioned something about how the Finnish way, and they just didn't want to hear it, and they were kind of hostile about what I was saying. So I just went along with doing it the way they were doing it.
So I would be curious to hear about that, because that first time, if I heard you right, it was in Tampere when you went over, and it was in the basement.
That may have been the first one, or it may have been my friend Angie she took me to like a fancy spa, and it's in the novel also. I sent you that chapter. That's when Nora first goes to a sauna in a fancy spa, because in Tampere, and I'm sure in other parts of Finland in the winter, one of the things people do to stay cheerful and to deal with the darkness is they go to these really nice indoor spas, so which of course have fantastic saunas, and they have fantastic pools with all different temperatures of pools, and some of them have slides for the kids, and but they have fantastic saunas in those places. And then I went to the public saunas in Tampere. Tampere is the sauna capital of Finland. That's in my poetry book. I have a note about that. I can read you the note. It's in the back of the book because it's a picture. Okay, Tampere was named Sauna Capital in 2018 as its home to the most saunas in Finland. So I just started to go to all the saunas in Tampere while I was there.
And so,
yeah.
So what did they teach you? Like, you're an American, you come over there, you've had
Yeah.
some sweat lodge experience, but then also gym and hotel, but not really like the Finnish way. So what did they teach you? What was that?
They
What
taught
was
me
that
the
like for
whole
you?
ritual of the lolu, and of pouring the water on the rocks, and of the whole ladle and the bucket, which I have the Finnish names for them in the chapter I didn't read. I don't have it memorized, but they explained it to me, and then I saw by example, and then I saw how you go out, and then you go in the shower, or if there's a pool, you go in the pool and you do the hot and the cold. And you do rounds, how you do rounds, and how the top bench is hotter than the lower bench, and how you sit. And you're naked, of course, except when you're in the public saunas, you're not naked. So there is a real big difference there. And that's also in my novel, because Nora doesn't understand that. So I learned, if you're in a public sauna, then you have to wear a bathing suit. If it's a co-ed public sauna, you can't be naked. And that's just not as good. It's just fabric on your body is not helpful. So, the other funny story is, so also the conferences in Finland. So one time when I went back to Helsinki to the Maple Leaf and Eagle, it's a big conference from University of Helsinki. It's Canadian and American literature, which is why it's the Maple Leaf and the Eagle. And they had a sauna evening as part of the conference. So that's another thing I love so much about Finnish culture, that if you go to an academic conference or maybe a business meeting, you have a sauna evening or a sauna afternoon as part of the experience. And so I came to understand that sauna was just so incorporated into people's lives. And that's also in the novel, that people feel it helps them connect to each other. And they feel that if they miss their sauna appointment, they're missing out on this valuable time to connect to each other, especially because I know it's a stereotype, but Finns do tend to be quieter. They do tend to be overall quieter and less chatty than we Americans. So, but then sometimes in the sauna is where they will talk about things with each other. There was a film about men in the sauna that was just about that. Eero or any of you, do you remember the name of that film?
Theme of life.
That's it.
Correct.
Steam of Life, which was a
Yeah.
wonderful film.
Yeah.
So I guess when I went to Finland, I just came to realize the extent of the experience and how it wasn't just about personally feeling good, that it also was spiritual, that it also was connective, that it also was cultural, that it also was spiritual, that it also involved the environment and nature, because if there was, at the cottages, everybody has a sauna, and then if there's water, you go into the water. And I had an amazing experience for Johannes, which is midsummer in outside of Tampere in another community that friends took me to. And that was where I first did, had the birch leaves and the experience with, with hitting yourself or someone hitting you with the birch leaves, and just the scent of that and the beauty of that was so amazing to me. And also the bonfires. No one does midsummer like the Finns. It doesn't even come close in the other Nordic countries. And I was in Iceland this year for it, and they did nothing where I was. I was so disappointed that they did nothing for midsummer. At least I was in a very small town, and they just didn't celebrate it in a meaningful way.
Well, I'm not one of the quiet Finns, I have to admit. And I try to hide the fact that DNA wise, I'm almost as Swedish as I'm Finnish, but don't play it against me.
Are you a Swedish speaking Finn, Eero?
No, I'm not. No, I'm
Okay.
not. No, my there's a half of my family speaks Swedish, but I'm 25 years in the US does not help much. So it's like,
And New York, we're very outspoken in New York.
yeah, that's also true. So when you speak, and you almost covered that, but I just want to ask you about, because you bring up this spirituality thing and doing it right. It's just like, why are we talking about these two topics? It's like, why are we talking about doing the sauna right? And why do you bring spirituality to the sauna discussion?
Because it's part of it. It's definitely part of it. And it's me talking to people about it. And it's in my novel, Off the Yoga Mat, that people do see it as spiritual. They do see it as calming. And there are health benefits, of course, which is like the science side of things. But I've certainly seen a lot of scientific and medical ideas about that it's actually beneficial for your health in so many ways. I won't get into that. But I just feel, first of all, a lot of the saunas are incredibly beautiful. The buildings are beautiful. So one of my favorite saunas, and I have a whole poem about this in the poetry book, is about this sauna in Helsinki. It's the oldest swim hall, and I have a whole poem about it. I'm not going to read it, but I probably can't pronounce it right. So Eero, it's Ronkatu, Yrjonkatu. You know that swimming hall?
Hold on. Say that again.
Yrjon.
Yrjonkatu. Yeah.
Yrjonkatu.
Yes,
Yrjonkatu. I just feel religious about Yrjonkatu. I feel religious in there. So it's amazing. You guys have to go to Helsinki and you have to go to that sauna. First of all, it's a swim hall. It's the oldest public indoor swimming hall in Finland, and it dates from 1928. It's around the corner in Kamppi, which is right in downtown Helsinki. And they have sessions by gender. Okay, so the reason that's great is because then you can be naked because it's a public sauna. But if it's only gender based, then you can be naked. And so just not having anything on your body just makes the whole sauna experience so much better. And this place has a giant swimming pool, and you can swim naked in it. It's optional. It's clothing optional. Then it has private rooms. You have to pay a little more, but it has private rooms with like cots inside. And it has like 6 different types of sauna. And it does have an infrared one, and it does have one steam room, but it has electric sauna, smoke sauna. It has all the different ones. And to me, it's a religious experience. It's just so amazing. And people go with their friends, they go with their family. You can also order drinks and some food there. It's just like it just feels very special. It just feels like you're communing with community, with your own body, with the relaxation of the water and the heat. It's everyone respects it. Everyone is very, it's not loud, even though there are all those people in there. People just respect each other. So I think that's another reason I find it spiritual. People just take it seriously. They know it's important to people, and so they respect the experience. And that some people are very quiet, and some people are just by themselves, and they just are relaxing, and they're just letting out whatever has happened to them in their day, and it's just like releasing tension. And the experience of the hot and the cold is just very rejuvenating. So I don't mean religious in the sense that in the sense that it's like maybe like you'd worship a god. Certainly not. I'd say it's more spiritual than religious, but there could be that people felt that they communicated with the ancestors. Certainly Sámi believe in connecting with the ancestors through the yoik, which is their form of third singing. They believe you're connecting with a spirit or an ancestor. And so it's entirely possible that for some people the sauna experience is spiritual in that godlike sense. But I guess I'm talking about it more in the sense of feeling like as one, feeling a connection between the elements like the water and the heat, and maybe the people you've gone with, or maybe with yourself.
I'm just actually, before I say about or what I was going to say, but my childhood was probably quite different than many other people's childhoods here in the US. But as a kid in the 60s, me and my buddy, we took the tram. I used to live in downtown Helsinki when I was a kid, and so I was probably still in elementary school. We took a tram to the Yrjönkatu sauna. But we were just kids. We were like 7, 8 years old, but we took the tram by ourselves and went there. We didn't go there for the sauna. We went there for the swimming pool.
Great pool.
Yeah, because in the 60s there were not too many swimming pools, where I came from. So that was actually the closest. But why I asked about spirituality specifically is now saunas are being used basically for different purposes, and in the US, particularly in the US, there's this gym sauna culture, and it might be a little hard to find the spirituality in the gym sauna. That's why I wanted to
I agree with you. And in the gym sauna, it's more of just like after you've done your workout, it's a place to just like relax a little, right? And slow down from all the exercise you've done. And then people would bring things into the sauna. In my gym, they'd bring in lotions and they'd bring in sprays, and I don't know, I never saw that in Finland. I never saw people mixing the sauna experience with all kinds of other things that they bring in with them.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you mentioned the smoke sauna. That's kind of a sauna experience that almost completely died out here in North America. What was that like for you in Finland?
Oh, it's amazing. I have a whole poem about that too in the book, because one of them caught on fire when I was just after I came out. So the smoke sauna is amazing because, well, there's the smoke sauna with the chimney, and then there's the smoke sauna without the chimney. So without the chimney, it's just incredibly hot. It's incredibly hot, and I can't take it for that long because I'm not as able to take the heat as Finnish people are. And there's also a funny element of it to me, like it's almost a form of macho, right, Eero, would you say? That people like that they can take the heat, and that they're proud of the fact that they can take the heat. And I read about, maybe it was a joke, but there's a joke about like a Finn going against a Russian as to who could take it hotter and that kind of thing. And
yeah.
So the smoke sauna it's definitely, the one with the chimney is wonderful, because then at least there's an escape for the smoke. But the ones that don't have a chimney, which is that old one in Tampere, the Pispala sauna, I believe that's one of the original ones without the chimney. So it's just I have to go out more when I'm in one of those because I can't take it for that long. So I have to leave and come back and forth more than I would in an electric sauna. I can stay in much longer. But I was very proud when I actually took an American. We were in a cabin in one of the national parks in the north of Finland, and I was in charge of the sauna. It was my first time being the person who lit the fire, who heated it up. Usually other people did that. So it was a very big moment for me that I was in charge of making the sauna. And this was a close friend. And at first she insisted on wearing her bathing suit going in. And I was like, Marjorie, you're not going to wear your bathing suit. We've known each other how many years, so finally she took it off and she admitted. And so there's something about bearing yourself, not only literally, but figuratively in the sauna. If you're sitting naked with people of all different shapes and sizes and ages. So that line I have, in one of my poems about letting go of judgment and just being accepting. It's just one of the things I love about the sauna culture and Finland in general. There's much more acceptance of different body types, I would say.
Well, that's great, because I think, that is one thing that I think North America could do a better job of, is being a little bit more open-minded. I mean, if you turn on HBO after 10 o'clock at night, you see a lot more than you ever will in in a sauna. So I don't see why we're doing so much to really actively kind of separate it. I'm a big fan of au naturel, but and honestly, in a professional adult setting, I have no problem with it. I understand, we're obviously not there where we're going to be mixing genders and with, ages of all types, but getting to a point where people are comfortable in their own skin, I think, is a great thing for sauna. And I think it helps people realize, hey, you know what? I'm in here just trying to survive, just like everybody else. So it's a great equalizer. I love that. I love that you touched on that, Cheryl.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't think, and it's not a sexual thing in Finland, whereas it is in this country. So that's another big difference, I think, with the nudity, that it's really not. And I've talked to a lot of Finns about this because it's, I'm an outsider, so I make sure that I talk about this with people, and they say it's definitely not. It's definitely not seen that way.
I feel that it's just it can't be a stopper. So if it's an issue, it's an issue, and it's just like you either wear your bathing suit or you don't. But it can't be a game changer, because just the sauna is still a sauna, and I sauna bathe with my trunks on here in the US with my body, so it's like I'm fine with that.
Well, yes, and I can understand that. So here, I think it would be more where you wear your bathing suit. Yeah. But since we were in Finland, I was with my friend. We were the only two people in the cabin. I got her to take it off.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think my friends are terrified that when I introduce them to sauna, I've been talking about it, that I'm going to take them and just strip them naked and force them to have to endure,
Yeah.
But, like, I totally agree with like what Cheryl, what you said and what Sam said, is there is a benefit to kind of getting over yourself and realizing it's not about the nakedness. But as Americans, that's that is a bit of a hill to.
Oh, it's a big hill. And I have a lot of funny stories about that. More related to Iceland, because in Iceland, if you're going to go in a pool, and Iceland has all geothermal, all the pools are geothermal in Iceland. So you have to take a shower naked before you put on your bathing suit in Iceland. And I have stories of Americans who refused. They were like, that's it. I'm not going to the pool because I'm not going to. And it's a public shower where there's other people naked in the shower. And they just refused to do that. And they just wouldn't go. So, yeah.
I mean, and I can understand where, you're naked sitting on the top bench, and, no one looks good sitting down naked. There's a reason why no one takes photos of naked people sitting down. It's not a flattering position. Things fold, things crease. It's human nature. So I think that is a big thing too. People don't want to be in an unflattering position. But at the end of the day, I'm in there to get a good sweat. I could care less if you have clothes on or not, because honestly, for me in a sauna, unless it's a public sauna, usually it's a pretty quiet event for me. I'm not very chatty in my home sauna, unless it's a dear friend that I haven't seen in years, but usually it's pretty quiet. But in a public sauna, yeah, I'll be more social and engaged with more people, usually because I'm forced to. But
Where do you live, Sam?
so I used to live in Minnesota, but I have just recently, this last summer, moved down to the Southeast. So I'm in South Carolina now. So
Okay.
I've got a lot of work to do to spread the word of sauna in the South here.
Definitely, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So what about we spoke about spirituality and you covered that extremely well. So why do you have to do the sauna right? And what does that even mean?
Okay. Yes, and people here don't really understand that. Mostly people don't understand that. Well, for me, it means it has to be hot. The sauna has to be hot.
Okay.
And I find that mostly in the American saunas in the gym or the hotel, or wherever you might find a sauna that is communal, used by different people, that's not a private sauna, it's not hot enough. And it's just because maybe they think it's dangerous to have it hot. And I can't give an exact temperature. I won't, I don't remember the temperature that I like, but, and then usually if you're not in control of it, you can't make it hotter. And if you say something to somebody, they may not be able to do it, or so that's one of the first problems, that if it's not hot enough, you're not going to have the same experience, because you want to sweat. That's the point. You want to sweat. And then most saunas in the context I described, they may not have the water on the rocks. They may just have an electric sauna that they don't allow you to put water on it. And so then you don't have the steam, you don't have the lolu. And that's, again, to me, that's the whole point of the sauna, is that, and that's so integral to the sauna experience. And then if they do have water, which, maybe there are some that have it, I don't know, it's just like people don't understand when to use it, how to use it. They may bring other things into the sauna with them. That just doesn't feel right. They may not respect giving people space in the sauna. It's when it's a group of people coming from all different backgrounds who don't understand it, it's just not the same experience as when you're with people who do understand it. So there's many things that are not good about it. For me, once you've had the real experience, or the Finnish experience, just the other ones don't quite measure up for me. I don't know how else to say it. Of course, when you have a lake right outside, that's the best. When you have that sauna experience where you have, so like, even I would say, like, if the water is cold somewhere, at least if there was a sauna near the lake, then you could have the heat. So the heat and the cold kind of provide balance, right? And that's what's really
Yes.
healthy and good for you, is the juxtaposition of the extreme heat with the cold. And a lot of people can't take the cold water. I love cold water. And I think it's the influence of Finland on me. I love cold water. So I don't like it when the water's like an ocean or a lake. I like it when it's 68 is my ideal, 68 Fahrenheit. Now, sometimes in Finland, it's not even that. It's in the 40s or 50s, the water. So I understand, but they go in. And that is one thing I wasn't able to do. I wasn't able to totally go in. Say in Lake Nazajärvi, in Tampere, I wasn't able to go in like other people, like Finnish people could go all the way in. I could only go in maybe halfway.
It's in my case, I really don't like cold water. per se, but obviously it's a very important element with the sauna bathing. So when it's a hot sauna, then I need the cold water, but I don't jump into the cold water without the sauna. But it's a fantastic combination. But it's this kind of we Sam, Chris or Risto and I, we've been talking about, obviously because this is the continuation is the podcast that we are doing now. We've been the three of us, we've been talking about sauna a lot, and I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but the one thing is that the consensus seems to be that we would be doing sauna even though it would be a little harmful for you, which it is not, but it just feels so good. And I personally, the one incentive why I started doing this sauna thing way back in the day was because I just can't fathom that people don't get it. But it's very easy for me to say because I'm 60 plus and I've been sauna bathing 60 plus years. So I think that I definitely get it. But I just try to, I would love to, and this is what we're doing at North American Sauna Society. We try to convey this great tradition and this thing that is, and kind of one thing that is more and more seems to be like growing the idea that it's mentally it's not, it's also physically good for you, but it's definitely mentally good for you.
It clears your head, it makes your cheeks rosy, you just feel so good afterwards, and you sleep really well. That's the other thing, it helps you, you'll get a really good night's sleep, or it's just physiologically good for you, emotionally good for you. Yeah, definitely.
And I'd like to say just like one, like really emphasize one point, or to cheerlead for the cold water a little bit is, you have the hot and the cold of sauna. The hot is an easier relationship, I think, for most people.
Yeah.
And the cold is a much more difficult relationship, and it takes time to develop that relationship. But oftentimes it becomes, perhaps even more meaningful, like relationship with that temperature in the long term. People end up for me speaking personally, I enjoy it even without a sauna. Even though it still is difficult, the cold has, I love it.
I'm with you, Christopher. On a hot day, you come out of the cold water and you dry off in the sun, and then you go back in the cold. Who wants to go in a warm water on a hot day? I don't.
That's true though. So
I suppose a lot of my friends would say that about why I want a sauna on a hot day. But I think it works the same way.
Yeah.
It's that getting your body out of a comfortable zone and then going back to equilibrium. It doesn't matter if you're going from a cold to a warm or a warm to a cold. That transition has got to be just the best thing. Getting to that, or finding that sweet spot and then coming out of it and going back to it. I love that.
So most of the places I've been to don't have the equilibrium. If you go out of the sauna in a gym and you go into the shower and then you go back into the sauna, you don't see anybody doing that. I would be doing that and no one else was doing that. And then let's also say you have to drink fluids. Let's put in a plug for that, how important it is to stay hydrated.
Always.
Yeah.
True. Hey, we're gonna start wrapping up here. We've spoken almost an hour.
Yeah, go USA. I have to go watch the World Cup.
Yeah, you're gonna go.
Yeah.
But Cheryl, first you have to pitch. So where can one buy your books?
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, you disabled screen sharing.
I can.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna make you the host, but you have to make me the host then back. Hold on a minute. Where are we? We are here. And no, hold on. No, I muted you. You have to unmute yourself. I made a mistake. Make host. Here we go.
It's in the red dot.
Yeah, no.
The blue. Okay, now let's.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So this is Amazon. I know not everyone is a fan, but it's also available on Bookshop, Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy fine books. You can order it also from Livingston Press. That's the publisher. Small press book distribution. It's in Kindle edition and paperback. And then This is the other books, my poetry book, The Sauna is Full of Maids, is right here. And this one is kind of out of print, but this one's about 9/11 and Mount St. Helens, juxtaposing those two events. And I'm going to have to get this one republished by a different publisher because my publisher for Crater and Tower kind of disappeared. So that book is kind of hard to get, but this one is Shanti Arts. And yeah, so it was published in 2021 and talks about it here and, etc. The reviews have been wonderful. I'm really grateful for the reviews in both cases of Off the Yoga Mat and The Sauna is Full of Maids. Okay, so really you can get it anywhere. You can also go into your local bookstore and ask them to order it for you if you want to support independent presses, which I am a fan of, but it's easy to get it on Amazon. And if you prefer the Kindle edition, it's also available.